Kia ora! Welcome to my poi ball tutorial. This is Heather with Mana Polynesia out in Washington, D.C. And today we're going to learn how to make either short poi or long poi. Now you can make poi in any color you want. We're going to go a little more traditional today and do more of a red, white, and black. If you want to go really traditional, you've got to grow some New Zealand flax. That doesn't grow here where I am. So for materials, you're going to need 3 colors of yarn or wool. And the brands that I prefer would be the most inexpensive ones. So Red Heart and Cairn are brands found around here. If you're anywhere in North America, they're at Joann's, Michael's. Don't get the fancy, thick, extra soft ones. Just get the inexpensive ones. They actually work better. No matter what colors you choose, you'll still, so for example, this one does not have any white in the braid, but you still need some white to tie the plastic on. So, unless you want to use dental floss. So, 3 colors of yarn. You'll need a measuring tape if you care about how long they are. I almost never use a measuring tape, but you can do that. Scissors, and then for the filling, so when I was a kid, we used newspaper or paper towels. That's what we had around the house. Nowadays, my preferred method would be foam. Because foam is sometimes a pain in the rear to get a hold of, I'll use grocery bags. These actually work really great. They're super easy to come by. They're free. The Walmart ones are nice because the printing is not too dark. You can use something else, like here's a Safeway bag, but keep in mind that when you wrap it all up, the color comes through a little easier. So you can use that, but Walmart ones work really great. For the foam, you can either buy foam from, say, Joann's or Walmart in the craft section, or you can use an old couch cushion and just cut it up with a serrated knife. After you have the filling, some people like to wrap it with batting, up to you, and then you just need white garbage bags. Make sure it's the smooth, flat kind, not the bumpy kind. I usually use the large bags, but you can use small bags, so whatever you would like. Okay, let's start off with making the tassel for a poi. We're going to be making a black tassel, just one color. You use whatever dominant color you want to use for the tassel, but keep in mind that if you want to get fancy, you can always do 2 colors or 3 colors. You just need to add more of those colors into the tassel. Some people like thin, small tassels. This is for a lady that always asks me to make them with very small tassels. I like them big, so just keep that in mind. You can make it however you want. So take your thing of yarn and pinch it between your thumb and finger. Spread your fingers out. I wouldn't go like this. I would spread them out, and you're going to wrap it around that, okay? I usually do it 25 to 30 times, but again, if you want them thinner, go smaller. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Make that into a little donut. Set it aside for your second poi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Make it into a little donut. Set it aside. Now, this next trick works if you have nice new things of yarn. It'll be a little shortcut. If you've used most of your yarn, this will be much smaller and all tangled up. So this shortcut only works for nice new ones. So we're now going to make the long rope part. You're going to grab all 3 colors. You need 4 white strands, 4 red strands, and 8 black strands. So I never measure how long I make these, but for you guys I will. So I'm going to reach out. Okay, so when this is folded in half. So when I measure this, it's always better to go longer than shorter, but it's basically 35 inches times 2, so about 70 inches long is how long I'm making this, give or take. Here's my trick. You just cut 3 at once. Now grab your next 3. Measure it out. Cut. Okay, here's color number 3, or strand number 3. Measure it out. Here's the 4th one. Cut. Okay, so now I have 4 reds, 4 whites, 4 blacks, so we don't need the red anymore. Won't need the white for a little bit. I need 4 more blacks, so I'm going to go ahead and cut those. 2, 3, 4. Okay. So now we've got our long snake of yarn. You want to double check that you have enough. So for each side, for each poi, you'll have 2 red, 2 white, 4 black. So check 2 red, 2 white, 4 black. Separate those out. Okay, here's the first one. Grab your little donuts back and you're going to thread it through the middle. Okay, so this is going to be the tassel part. This is going to be the long rope part. Okay, so there's one ready to go. Grab your other donut. Thread the yarn through. Sometimes it gets all tangled and you have to just start over again. Okay, keep that wrapped. Okay. So now we're ready to braid our poi. Now again, the distance from here to here is 35 inches. If you're doing a short poi, I mean, you can cut that like half off. But again, it's always nice to err on the long side so that your poi aren't too short. Okay, let's talk poi ball length. So everyone has their own opinion, preference, all of that. This is just a general idea. Here's my very technical drawing. A lot of people will measure from their armpit out to their hand, and that's how long they want their long poi. As a general rule of thumb, I'll do maybe a 20-inch long poi, and that's measuring from the ball to the tassel. So that's about 20 inches. I'm 6 feet tall, so I go longer. If you're doing a kid poi, you know, you might want to go shorter. For short poi, here's sort of a good length. If you're starting out with short poi, this is maybe 9 inches. I tend to like them a little longer. This one's 11 inches, but again, up to you. Now let's get ready to start braiding our poi. Okay, it's now nighttime. My kids are distracted, the husband's distracted, the the cat is not. So if you see a black cat sneak in, don't be spooked. Okay, you're gonna take your tassel part, the donut part, wrap it around your toe, and you're gonna separate out the colors. So there'll be 1 white, 1 red, 2 blacks. You want the 2 dominant colors on one side. That's key for making the pattern work. We're going to start on the right side, but it doesn't matter if you start right or left. You're going to start with the top piece, the top right piece. You're going to go under 2 and back over 1. Okay, and this you're going to pull tight. Okay, you're going to do the same thing but on the left side. You're going to go under 2 and back over 1. Pull it tight. Cinch it down, okay? Pull all 4 of them as tight as you can. Okay, back to the right side. Under 2, back over the top of 1. Pull it tight. Left side. Under 2, back over 1. Okay, now you need to keep it tight, but it's not as important as those first few ties. So under 2, over 1, under 2, over 1, and I'm going to go ahead and braid the rest of this. Under 2, over 1, under 2, over 1. We're going to put this on fast forward. Okay, let's go ahead and measure from where the tassel starts down here. So I went a little bit past 21. I'm going to put a marker right there and just undo a few. When I'm making them, if I do it about 21 inches long, that'll give me a 20 inch poi. So I'm going to tie that off. Okay. And now we're going to make the quick tassel. So for the tassel, I hold the poi, kind of pinch it right there, and I'm going to kind of comb the strings. And this is a little hard to see on my black pants, so I'll put something right there so you can see it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and tie the tassel, square knot, alrighty, and now we're going to trim this. Go ahead and trim all the little loops. Okay, and then I'm going to trim the edge. We can see that. Shake it a little bit. Make sure all the strings are cut. Okay, and there is your nice tassel. So you've got your braid and your tassel. Time to put the poi ball on. Okay, now to put the balls on the poi rope. Again, for long poi, I tend to prefer the grocery bags. For short poi, I prefer foam. So I'm going to show you both ways. So we'll start off with the grocery bag way. You're going to need a piece of white yarn, and it's about, I don't know, 14 inches times 2, about 28 inches long. So keep that handy. I keep it in half like that. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to take your bags, and you want any of the print to stay kind of on the inside so that it doesn't shine through as much. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, So I've got 5, and now what I'm going to do is tie it in between the strings, okay? So I take about half the strings on one side, half on the other, put this in the middle, and I'm going to do a square knot. I do it pretty tight. You don't want anything on your poi ball to be loosey-goosey. Okay, and just for kicks, I'm going to do one more because I'm paranoid. Okay. Trim this about an inch long or so. Okay, now you're going to fold this inside. And I just sort of tuck, make sure any of those strings are inside. And your goal is to make a round ball. And make sure that none of that print is shining through. Now, some people will take batting and put it around this. I'm usually lazy and don't do that. Take your garbage bag. Okay, you'll notice every garbage bag, at least in North America, they all have the choking hazard print. You don't want that on the poi. So I make sure that's on the inside and I try to avoid it. Okay, put the poi in the middle of the bag and then you're just going to wrap it like this. Now, I'm just sort of hugging it with my fingers. Make sure you put the grocery bag part, make sure it's poked down inside. Okay, and this part, it just takes a little bit of wrestling. I just, I kind of work it a little bit. I push down the lumps and then I stroke the plastic part just to make sure that it's as round as possible, that it's not out of shape. And I really want to make sure that this is coming nice and straight through. Make sure that there's long enough pieces around the whole side. Try to avoid that print as much as you can, but sometimes you just can't, okay? Now this is the part that's a little bit tricky. We want to tie this on, and this is the way that I do it because I'm usually doing it solo. If you have someone to help you, you might find an easier way. So I'm left-handed too, so keep that in mind. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch that, I'm going to hold it close, so just around there. And then I'm going to wrap it around one time, and then I'm going to tighten it. Now this is key. You want this to be as tight as possible. And then you do a tie. Okay, so you really got to kind of make sure. Oh, see how that's separate right there? We got to make that up higher. It's really worth it. If you mess up the first time, just go back and do it again. Okay, so I'm pulling it really tight, and now I'm going to wrap it around again, and I'm going to do a full square knot. Make sure it's tight. Make sure it's tight. Alrighty, and if you're extra paranoid, you can go around the other side. Okay, so now you can trim this. And now you can trim off the extra bag. Make really sure you're not going to clip your rope, your precious rope that you just braided. And try not to stab the side of the poi ball. Just get most of it off. And I just sort of pull it all straight out. And now this is where I cut it a little nicer, a little more even. And then I like to separate the layers and fluff it out a little bit. Now this isn't ideal to have this writing in there. If you can avoid that, do it. But I just sort of separate the layers and fluff it out a little bit. And if there's anything sticking out like that, like a little stringy bit, then you can trim that off as well. Okay, so far the Walmart small bags are not my favorite for fluffing it out, but you know, whatever. Okay, now with the ball, I still like to, you know, mess around with it a little bit and make sure it's as round as possible. But there you go, you've got your nice round ball, and you didn't have to pay anything for that filling. Thank you, Auntie Sia, for tipping me towards the bags. Okay, now let's do foam. All right, let's get started with our foam short poi. For this, you'll need your braid, your foam, batting if you'd like to cover up the color, garbage bag, and white yarn. So we'll start off with getting this foam ready. And what you're going to do is take your scissors, open them up, and start by making a hole through the top. And you want to make a hole that reaches about halfway down through the poi. And you're just going to gently rip it just big enough so that you can get your fingers through there. Don't rip too big, otherwise you'll ruin it. So I'm gonna have one hole here and then two coming from the sides. Okay, so how this is gonna work, this is gonna set inside. You're gonna have some strings coming out the side, some from the top, and then tie it together. So for this hole over here, I'm not aiming for the center towards the top, but not too close to the top because it'll just rip. Okay, so I'm going to make another hole here and here. And I'm just going to rip it big enough for my fingers to get through, just so that they can meet up. I'm just being very careful because if you rip too much, you'll rip this whole tunnel system open. Okay, so now we're going to, I'm going to have the longer one. So in this case, it's this black one, and I guess maybe this black one, doesn't matter too much. I'm going to have the black ones go down the middle. So I'm going to twist this a little bit just because it's a little easier to get it through here. I'm going to take this piece and push it through, and the foam is really sticky, so it's hard to get through there. I'm going to twist this a little bit and again try and push it all the way through. I got 3 strands through, that's good enough. Okay, and I want this joint to be just below the poi. Okay, so it doesn't have to be super far down in. Now these guys are going to tie together and these guys are going to tie together, and I'm going to make the knots kind of close to the handle so that when we cover it up it isn't so noticeable. Okay, so we're just going to do a little square knot. Okay, you'll notice that this has now brought the braid, the handle way over, and I want it in the center. So I'm keeping that in mind as I tie this part. I'm going to tie it until it's about the center. It's not going to be perfect. That's okay. Okay, there's my 2 square knots, sort of in the middle. Let's trim. Okay, now we're going to shape the poi into a circle, and you could spend forever doing this and making it look perfect. It's up to you what you would like to do, but with the foam poi, it tends to be a little bumpier and not perfectly round like the ones we made with the grocery bags. But I'm starting off by clipping the corners and the edges. I'm taking care not to cut my rope or my handle. Now you could make the poi just like this. I'll show you what it would look like. Okay, you can see how I can still sort of see those ridges a bit, so I'm just going to fine tune mine a little bit more, but it's up to you what you want to do. This stuff just gets very staticky. Sticks to you, sticks to everything. Get it out of the way. Okay, so I'm gonna do it like this. Now, because it's green, I'm gonna go ahead and cover it with my layer of batting. If you can't find this or you don't have it around the house, it's really not that necessary. I don't think people can completely tell from, like, say, an audience perspective that your poi is green. But you can see the difference. This one does not have anything in between. Alrighty, and once again, we're going to wrap the garbage bag around it. And I'm minding where the print is on this. I want to avoid that, but I can't totally avoid it because it's really across the middle. The key is I want this edge to not be too short as I'm wrapping the poi. So I do have some writing there. I'd love to avoid that, but you know what? That's where the print is. So I'm just going to keep moving this around until it's where I like it. I'm going to check underneath, make sure that's inside, and to make sure that all of this plastic is long enough. Okay, so just check underneath, make sure everything's long enough. You could squeeze it a bunch and have it be really small, or you can let it be a little bigger. That's up to you. Okay, I'm going to take my white yarn and I'm going to pinch it down here, wrap it around a time or two. And you want this to be so tight. Even more than, it's even more important than when you were making the garbage or the grocery bag ones. This one's going to take a beating, literally. Okay, so I'm really going to make that tight. Do half a square knot here. And then I'm going to wrap it around a few more times and add one more square knot. Again, if you're just starting with short poi, I recommend having a big ball. It's just going to be easier to dance with, easier to aim, easier to hit your arm. Okay, I'm double checking. Yep, it's long enough. I'm going to go ahead and trim it. This is normally forbidden to cut anything with my sewing scissors other than fabric, but this is one of the things I do use my sewing scissors for. Don't tell my children. I always threaten their lives if they use my sewing scissors on their stuff. Okay, I'm trimming all around. And I'm going to separate the layers a bit, fluff it out. These Walmart bags are not my favorite for being fluffy at the end. They're also a little bit on the thin, wimpy side, and the old Costco ones they used to have were better. Now you can see that's not perfect. It's better to have it all nice and even like that, but it'll be fine. You can work on that if you'd like. Again, key that this joint is very tight. Here's a poi ball I made several years back and I've been dancing with a lot, and I made this really tight and it was just as long as this, if not longer. But you know, it takes a lot of hitting, and this gradually will come through the joint and come undone. So eventually you're going to have to recover your poi balls. But the tighter you do this, the less likely it'll happen, you know, in your first performance or something. Here's another thing that we did in Hawaii. I don't know if this really helps or not, but I still do it to this day. You take a straight pin and you poke a bunch of holes on the poi, the head of the poi. And the theory behind this is every time you hit the poi, it allows the air to come out without causing more stress down here. So I'm not sure if it really works or not, but I do it anyways. So anyhow, there is your short poi ball. And if you have any questions about how I made this or any other questions, let me know in the comments.